Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're really getting into the weeds of something absolutely fascinating. We are unpacking the mind-bending mechanics of constructive filtrative duality to try and understand exactly how reality itself is formed. Honestly, if you've ever, found yourself just staring up at the night sky, agonizing over the ultimate origins of structure, geometry, and existence, well, you are in the exact right place. Humanity has been hung up on this precise mystery for literally thousands of years. How did all of this get here? So we're going to look closely at some deeply profound source material that completely redefines how we think about the cosmos, and really, it turns our standard view of creation totally upside down.
Okay, let's dive right into what is arguably the ultimate cosmic paradox. How exactly can a universe be constructed from literal, absolute nothingness? I mean, the old saying goes, nothing comes from nothing, right? And that feels intuitively true to us. If you have absolutely zero materials, you obviously can't build a house. For centuries, this has been the ultimate roadblock in both philosophy and theoretical physics. You seemingly cannot get something from a starting state of absolute zero. Well, the material we're exploring today presents a beautifully specific, logical framework to explain exactly how this happens. And as you'll see, it challenges our most basic assumptions about what nothingness actually means.
All right, Section 1, Adding versus Subtracting Reality.
To really grasp this deeply philosophical theory, we first need to ground ourselves in a highly relatable, physical metaphor about how we process light and color. Now, I know it sounds like a bit of a detour, but I promise you, understanding this is absolutely key to unlocking the whole shebang. Fundamentally, there are two ways to build a set of information. First, you have the additive process. This is where you construct a set additively from the bottom up by illuminating elements. Think of this exactly like pixels turning on to create an image on a dark television monitor. You start with a black void, and you systematically add light, piece by piece, to build your picture. But then, and this is crucial, you have the subtractive process. You can define a set subtractively by stacking colored filters to restrict the set of all possible outcomes. This involves a sort of Venn-like superposition of constraints. Instead of adding elements to an empty space, you're actually carving out specific elements from a bright totality by layering filters on top of each other. You start with everything, pure white light, and you block out what you don't want until you're left with a highly specific image.
Which brings us to Section 2. What is CF duality?
So now that we understand the difference between turning on a monitor pixel to add something versus stacking colored filters to subtract something, let's look at the core concept of the source material. The main takeaway here is that constructive filtrative duality, or CF duality, simply asserts that these two very different processes are actually equivalent when it comes to the underlying nature of reality. Constructing a reality by adding elements together and defining a reality by filtering down possibilities, they're essentially the exact same process, just expressed in two different ways. The material refers to a logico-geometric reality. To put that in everyday terms, the logic part refers to the rules, the underlying code, or the core truths, while the geometric part refers to the actual physical shapes, structures, and the literal space we interact with. CF duality is the bridge between those invisible rules and the visible structures.
Digging just a little deeper into this equivalence, CF duality equates any geometric state or continuous transformation to a mutual filtration of intersecting homological state potentials. Okay, I know homological state potentials sounds incredibly dense, but it's actually a beautifully simple concept once you break it down. Think of a state potential as an overlapping field of pure unmanifested possibility. It's essentially a giant cloud of everything that could be. When these fields of possibility overlap and interact, they act exactly like those colored filters we discussed earlier. They mutually filter each other down. This framework acts as a grand bridge. It seamlessly connects geometry, building physical structures, with logic, which is applying rules. Building a physical object and applying a logical boundary are completely unified under this one umbrella.
Let's move to Section 3, Building Universes from Nothingness.
So, how do we actually take this bridge between logic and possibility and use it to spawn a physical world? Well, instead of building reality additively from the object level upward, like laying down microscopic Lego bricks one by one, this text asks us to imagine states and objects as filtrative refinements. Let's use the analogy of a master sculptor. Step 1 isn't gathering clay to build a figure. No, step 1 is starting with a massive, internally undefined block of solid marble that represents broad, general relations. Then, in step 2, you apply filtrative refinements. You literally take a chisel and strike away everything that isn't the statue. You are subtracting possibilities.
And finally, in step 3, you arrive at specific states and objects, the beautiful finished sculpture. You don't build reality piece by piece. You actually filter it into existence from a much broader state of potential.
The author explicitly notes that CF duality is absolutely necessary to show how a universe can be zero-sum. Now, in physics, a zero-sum universe suggests that all the positive energy in the cosmos is perfectly balanced by an equal amount of negative energy, things like gravity, meaning the total net energy of the entire universe is exactly zero. It's a really mathematically elegant concept. But here's the catch. Without this filtrative subtraction we just discussed, there is simply no way to refine the requisites of construction out of absolute nothingness. If you only had an additive process, building with those Legos, you'd never be able to pull those Legos out of a void. You absolutely need the subtractive, filtrative aspect to logically carve something out of a starting state of zero.
All right, section 4, the ultimate blank canvas. This brings us to a profound shift in how we view the void, which the source material frames just beautifully. It defines nothingness as informationally zero constraint, or pure freedom. Just take a second to really let the magnitude of that thought sink in. In this cosmogony, nothingness isn't some empty black box. It isn't a dark, lonely vacuum desperately missing its contents. It is actually a state of pure, unrestricted freedom. It is nothing only because absolutely no rules, no boundaries, and no limitations have been applied to it yet. The text refers to this foundational, primordial state of pure freedom as unbound telesis, or UBT. To unpack that term a bit, telesis essentially means intelligent purpose, will, or potential driven toward a specific goal. So unbound telesis acts as a realm of limitless ontological potential. It's the ultimate unpainted canvas, but it's a canvas woven out of pure, infinite will. It holds the capacity to become absolutely anything, precisely because nothing is constraining it. There's simply no rules telling it what it can't be. So if we map our colored filter metaphor back onto the cosmos, the creation of the universe is actually just this unbound potential restricting itself into existence. Instead of some external creator adding physical parts to an empty void, the universe is what happens when infinite freedom applies a filter to itself. It's a process of self-limitation. It's narrowing down the limitless possibilities to form the highly specific logico-geometric reality that we occupy right now. The universe exists not because things were added, but because infinite possibilities were creatively subtracted.
However, there is a super fascinating and complex mechanism behind this self-restriction. Because we're starting with completely unbound potential, you can't just impose a rule from the outside. Constraints act restrictively on content. Therefore, the constraint, the rule, and the content it restricts must be birthed simultaneously in what the text calls a unified syntax-state relationship. To make sense of this, think about the game of chess. The syntax represents the rules of how the knights and rooks move, right? The state represents the physical wooden pieces sitting on the board. You cannot have the rules of chess existing entirely independently of the chessboard and the pieces. They literally give meaning to each other. In the creation of the universe, the underlying laws of physics and the physical matter they govern have to pop into existence at the exact same unified moment.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this final thought. If the entire universe is born from a state of pure freedom, restricting itself through filtrative duality, how do your own self-imposed filters define the reality you experience every single day? I mean, if existence itself is shaped by subtractive constraints, what reality are you actively filtering into being? Think about that for a while. Thank you so much for exploring this deeply fascinating cosmic concept with me today, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.